everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, from anywhere you're watching me around the world. My name is Seun Akinloton. I am the founder of On Point Success. At On Point Success, we specialize in branding, digital marketing, and website development. This is the Power Woman series, a weekly show that I host and I interview women from all around the world to come and share their authentic, insightful, and transformational stories. So if you're watching me right now, I would like to do what I would call a roll call. Where are you watching from? What's your name? Leave me your name, leave me your location, and let's get this started. So we're going to bring in Dr. Lizzy very soon, but I want to know where you're watching from. Leave me your name and remember to share this video. Share with your friends, invite your friends, and let's get the party started. Let's see. I'd like to know where you're watching from. Leave me your name and your location. Remember to share this video as you're joining in so we can make the party bigger and we can learn. Dr. Lizzy is ready. She's ready and good to go. Thank you. I see you all. Thank you. Just drop your name. Drop your name and your location. Let's know where you're watching from. How are you feeling today? How's the weather? Thank you all for joining. Leave your name and your location. Let's know where you're logged in from. Yes, we have Shakira Eletu from Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. How are you feeling? This is the Power Woman series. My name is Seun Akinloton. If you are just joining in, and I'll be your host for tonight. So Shakira Eletu, please share this video so we can have other people join in as well. We're going to get started in a bit. All right, I am going to get started now. So today we have a special guest. Her name is Dr. Lizzy. She graduated from Drexel University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and she'll be sharing her story with us today. I want you to stay tuned because you're going to learn a lot from Dr. Lizzy. So can we please have Dr. Lizzy?
Hi.
Welcome, Dr. Lizzy. Good to have you. Good evening. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Wow. Thank you so much for gracing the Power Woman seat. Thank you.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We're going to get started in a bit. So we have Queenette Elinlama from Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you. If you're watching and you have not told me your name or where you're watching from, please do drop it in the comment box. I'll be reading out your comments. Go and get your notepads, get some popcorn so you can munch on as we're talking because it's about to be explosive. All right. Let's get this started. Welcome everyone to the Power Woman series. I have Dr. Lizzy with me and she's ready to share her story, and I hope that you'll be able to pick one or two things that you can apply to your life and that will make you grow. So we have Olajide Okuromo. I'm guessing that's your dad. Yes, Daddy is cheering up our daughter. Welcome, Dad. Thank you for joining us. Please share this video with other people so we can have more people join us today. See, Daddy said that he's so proud of you, girl. Yeah. She'll be proud. You've raised an amazing daughter, and we are all proud of her. All right, Dr. Lizzy, let's get this party started. Could you please introduce yourself to our audience, who you are, what you stand for, and what you represent? Let's get this started.
Yes. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to be here. So, hi, everyone. As Seun has said, I am Dr. Lizzy Adedokun. I am 30 years old. I live in Minnesota with my husband, Paula, of almost 4 years. We've known each other for 9 years. I have 2 children. I have a son, AJ, who is 2.5, and then I have a daughter who's a little over a year old. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I have a master's in marriage and family therapy and just received my doctorate in marriage and family therapy. I am Nigerian. I grew up in Michigan, and I live in Minnesota now. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. And I'm the oldest child. I have 2 younger siblings. Raised in a Christian household with 2 amazing parents who are tuned in right now. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited to share my story.
All right. Thank you so much. Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much for that introduction, Lizzy. I had a couple of questions running in my head as you were introducing yourself, right? I think your parents are here and they're cheering you up. That's great.
I know they are.
I think I'm going to come back to some of the questions that were running in my head because I have a question for you. Now, one of the things that really make me cringe when it comes to parenting is the fact that you have like a clash of cultures going on. So I know that your parents are first generation immigrants and they probably came to America when you were very young. Were you born here? You didn't
No, I was born in England.
Okay, so you were born in England and then you were brought here when you were very young. Mm-hmm. And one question I really want to ask you is how were you able to cope with the different cultures? Because there's this Nigerian culture and there's the American culture. How did you grow up in school? How were you able to withstand the pressure, not just as an immigrant, but also a first child?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a really good question. Thanks for asking that. I think, one thing that comes to mind for me is the word acculturation, really having to merge into a different culture. And that was really hard for me, to be honest, growing up, coming home to a Nigerian culture, but at school, it's totally different. So I really experienced not being able to fit in really in both of these cultures. I kind of experienced being not American enough because people notice my last name and they notice, my behavior at school. But at home, I didn't really feel, as I should say, Nigerian enough. I understand Yoruba very well, but I didn't speak the language and I didn't know how to cook most of the, popular Yoruba meals. So it was really hard navigating, these 2 different cultures. But one thing that really helped me in school, I was a part of a lot of acculturation like clubs. I was in clubs with other students of immigrants. And so I was able to relate to those students. And, I didn't feel completely isolated or alone just because I was able to be around other students with a similar background. So, but I would say it was not easy, especially growing up. It was not easy, but I feel like I'm kind of more into I identify as Nigerian American, and I'm more comfortable in, my identity now as I'm older. But growing up, that was definitely hard.
Go to some places, and let's say you're standing in line, and someone is trying to pronounce your name, and they go, Miss O.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How does that make you feel? Does it make you feel awkward, or as a young child? I have young children in school, and resumption time is a time whereby the teachers have to do like a roll call, and then they see my daughter's name and they go like they're having a panic attack just trying to pronounce your name. How does that make you feel when people are not able to pronounce your name? Does it make you feel less of yourself, or how does that make you feel?
Oh, I remember those days in school when people would, my maiden name, last name is Okunronmu. And
Yeah.
people did not know how to say that for the life of them. And I had to really be slow with them. This is how you say it, Okunronmu. So I remember those days. I mean, I was blessed enough to not experience people just shortening my name. I think as I'm older now, I find it a little disrespectful, to be honest. I think it's really important to be open to different cultures and just, be patient, saying, people's names, just because that's your name, that's who you are. And when people, I find it to be a little dismissing when people just want to, plant their own name for you just because they're uncomfortable saying your name. So I think what I did when I was younger, I just slowed people down and, this is how you pronounce it. This is what it means. I would share stories about what my names mean. But I would, back in the day, I definitely would find that disrespectful. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm echoing. I don't know why. Do you have two devices over there?
I hear you perfectly.
Yeah, okay. So now you said that it was difficult growing up, and I really understand where you're coming from. I want you to share how you were able to overcome peer pressure. Peer pressure is a really big thing. So at home, you didn't feel Nigerian enough. In school, you didn't feel American enough. And then there are a lot of American kids that their parents let them do almost whatever they want. And then you're back home, your parents are telling you, no, 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 you can't do this. We're Nigerians, you can't do this. How were you able to deal with such situations? How were you able to deal with peer pressure? I really want you to share practical tips because I have people my age that are raising children in America or even anywhere in the world. We go out there and we see things and we're trying to raise our children in the right way. Could you share practical tips that maybe you can advise parents since you had a different perspective as a child? What advice would you give to parents that are raising kids in America or that are raising kids in a moral way that is different from what the world really wants?
Right. That's a really, really good question, because acculturation comes up a lot with, first generation children. I think it's really helpful, for parents to really learn to adapt and be open to different cultures. One thing I really pride my parents about is just they were able to instill, really important Nigerian values, but they were also pretty flexible, I would say. Growing up, I would always hear my dad kind of joke, you guys can really, do what you want, but you have to be respectful and be home at a respectful time. So I really appreciated that because that was a way of being flexible and really understanding that, this world is different from what I grew up in. I didn't grow up just going out and coming home at different times of the night, but I'm in a different country now. So, I kind of have no choice but to adapt and, be a little flexible. And I'm not saying flexible as in, just disrespect boundaries and rules, but really just being open in a way that you could still keep that, that healthy boundary. Like, for example, growing up, a lot of my friends had curfews that were 1 in the morning. That was not my case. In our family growing up, we had family prayer at 9 p.m. every day. And we had to pray at 9 p.m., which was really confusing for my American friends because 9 p.m. is a time that, that's everybody's going out at that time.
So how did you tell you I can't do 10 p.m.?
Oh man, I have to be honest. It was just a little uncomfortable, embarrassing in a way, just because my friends just really didn't understand at all why I had to be home so early. But as I got older, I want to say when I got to college, I had a lot of like-minded friends who were Christians, and they understood, that it was important for me that I had to be home at a certain time to pray with my family. That was a ritual that we've had since I was very young. So, but
were you not shy to tell them that you were going home to pray? Was it something that you were really comfortable with?
Well, in college, But when I was young, as a young child, you really don't understand. I think that's the main thing as a child. You're just really not understanding why you have to be home at a certain, time, or why you can't go to certain parties or even prom, things like that. You really kind of grow up with a misunderstanding, because you just, as young children, it's hard to really understand that. But as you get older, you start to really understand that, yeah, you have different values, and it's okay to have different, values and characteristics. So,
Wow. One thing your dad said in the comment, it says, train up your child in the way of the Lord, and when it grows up, it will never depart from it. And I think that is true. You also mentioned something about flexibility. As parents of teenagers or young adults, we need to be flexible. And I think for me, one other thing that I say to a lot of people is that you have to model what you are asking your kids to do. So if you're asking your kids to come back home at 9, then you have to make sure that you're home as well. And then I also think that effective communication can also help. Like you said, a child does not understand. So I would also love to hear from you. Do you have tips for a parent like me? How do I communicate to my child that, these are our values? I don't want you out late in the night, especially because you're not even in college yet. You're still in high school. How do I communicate that in a way that my child would understand and appreciate? Now that you've gone through that phase, you didn't understand quite well at that time, but you still kind of like fell into that role and you just followed the rules. But now, because you're now raising your own kids, you've had the ability to reflect back to the past and say, wow, this is so much wisdom that my parents trained me with. So what advice or what tips would you give to me or someone like me that is raising a teenager?
Teenagers. Yeah, that's a very challenging period, because teenagers, they want their independence, they want their freedom, but their brains are still developing. They don't get it yet. I think validation is a big word, and it's a word I use a lot, especially with my clients when I'm working with parents. And really just sitting down with them, eye level, and really validating their experience. For example, I know that this is hard. I know that you don't like hearing me say no. I know you want to go to this party and I'm saying no, but this is the reason. And I also think it's important too to have a relationship, especially with your teen, your adolescent, that is kind of like negotiating, right? So if you do these certain chores, you can have your phone for an extra hour, things like that. But validation is really key. Your teenagers, they want to know that you see them and you hear them. And one thing that helps me is I think of like, well, I was a teenager before, and so I get it, I understand. And so really just expressing that to your teen is really important. But validation is key. I say that a lot.
Okay, so validation is making sure that you're validating their feelings, you're not dismissing them. You're validating their feelings, and you're speaking to them. Effective communication and making them to see the big picture is really key. Thank you for that. Someone said teenagers want their freedom. Absolutely. When I was a teenager, I believed that I knew everything. It was so hard for me to take words from my parents. I'm just like, you guys, do you really understand what I'm going through? So right now, looking back, I'm like, oh my God, I knew nothing. And I'm still learning every day. I want my children to turn out right, irrespective of the environment that we find ourselves. So I'm always looking for tips on how to raise children. And I also love the fact that you said that we should build a relationship with them. Sometimes that can be hard because the mom goes to work, the dad goes to work. As an immigrant, you're trying to make ends meet, you're trying to put food on the table, and then you still have to make sure that you're there for your children, for their emotional needs, physical needs, mental needs, and just to talk to them, because sometimes our teenagers might be going through some type of bullying in school. Because
Yeah.
if you're doing something differently than your peers, it can result in bullying, and we need to validate them, because when you validate your child at home, it's going to be hard for anyone out there to diminish them, So I think building that relationship, one thing I do with my kids is I bring them along whatever it is I'm doing,
Mhm.
I tell them this is what I'm doing, let's do it together, just
Yeah,
making
sure.
sure that we're all doing this together, we're in it together, and through that we can build that relationship. So I think validation is key, and I absolutely agree with you. Now I want to move on to your doctorate degree. Yes, it's a big deal for me because I know that you're a Black female. I was checking the statistics of how many Black females have doctorate degrees in America. And I'm not sure whether this is the latest statistics, but what I found was that a little over half percent of
Mhm.
100% of people that have PhD
Yeah,
degrees,
really small.
doctor of philosophy degree, right? A
Mhm.
little over half percent. So we're talking about something around 0.65%. So as
Yeah.
a Black woman in America, when you are what pushed you to go after a doctorate degree, knowing that you're going to be in the minority? First, you're already minority, right? Now
Yeah,
you're even going into the minority of the minority.
I
What
know.
pushed you to get a degree, a doctorate degree? What pushed you?
Definitely. Thank you for asking. It really just it really came out of just experiences from grad school. And I really think that your circle of friends really can determine how far you can go. I have a very, very close friend who I'm sure is tuned in, Dr. Jamila Holcomb, and she was a year above me in my master's program. We both went to Northwestern University, and she was going off to get a PhD. And at that point, I had no idea like what, that really was, or just, why she wanted to do that. So I was just curious to know like, well, why do you want to, get a PhD? And that kind of just allowed me to research more about a PhD specifically in our field in MFT, because it was still like new and up and coming when we were in school. And also, I think for me, I wanted to get a PhD because I'm Black. There's not enough of us in our field, which really impacts the community. A lot of clients really want to see, therapists who look like them. And so I just wanted to add to that very small statistic, of Black women having PhDs, and really just knowing that Black women are, we can do anything, and
Yes.
I can be a doctor. So that's really what birthed my passion for going on for my studies. So
Wow. Great. If you are just This is the Power Woman series, and my name is Seun Akinloton. With me today is Dr. Lizzy Adedokun. She is a doctorate degree holder, and she has a degree in marriage and family therapy, right?
yeah.
And she's a licensed marriage and family therapist. Now, Lizzy, Dr. Lizzy, I want to know how you are able to juggle all the things that you need to juggle. You have a family, you have children, you have to go to work, and you were also able to go to school. How did you do it all? Give us practical tips.
Ooh,
Because a lot of women, I'm asking you these questions because a lot of women are living for their kids. Once they get married, then the dreams are, put in the back burner, never to be brought out again. So what pushed you to keep going? How are you able to juggle all those things together? Because PhD is tough. I went on some websites and I was looking at like the curriculum and everything that is required. It is a lot.
yeah, it's not easy, that's for sure. Um, you know, the first 2 years of my program was actually not that bad. I just had classes, and I was single at the time. I was living in Philly, but really things took a turn in 2016 when I was done with all my classes. I passed all my classes, and I became engaged. So I was, wanting to start planning for my wedding. But one thing I remember starting this program, I heard that like it's impossible to have a life. When you're in a PhD program, that's all you eat, breathe, and sleep is PhD, PhD. You can't get pregnant, you can't have a family, you can't work, it's just PhD. And I just remember that day literally sitting there at orientation, like, I really don't want my whole life to just be about school. Like I should, be able to balance other things, as well. I don't know how other people, just focus just on school and that's it. So 2016, I was talking to my chair and I was telling her my plan of moving home. And she was just not happy. She was not happy at all. And she was just saying how I'm going to get distracted, basically saying that I would not finish. I would not finish a PhD program if I were to go home and get married and start a family. But I was able to do it. And, to be honest, it wasn't easy. And I really believe it's important to have a village, have a community around you that's going to push you, because you don't have that, it's super hard to finish when it's because a PhD program is already so isolating, and it's not easy, right? There's writing, there's research. I mean, it's a lot. So I really believe it's important to have a community and have a village around you. I don't know if I would have finished without my husband. So I really applaud him for that. And just my friends, I have a lot of friends who have PhDs, and, just being encouraged by them. So that was really helpful. But I think the first big tip is just having a strong support system. You need a strong support system. And you also need structure as well. I think I've always been a very organized person. And so I make sure I always plan out, when I'm going to do my writing, when I'm going to do my working. And even with juggling kids, there were times where I would be nursing, my son and typing my paper. You just get really amazed at what you can do when you become a mom. So, but having a strong support system, having structure, being organized is really, really helpful.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that. I want to take a short break now, but don't go anywhere because I have a very special question about turning point in the life of Dr. Lizzy. Stay tuned and we will be right back.
My name is Susan Bandola Dosu, and OSBS Elite is one of the best gifts I gave myself this year as an entrepreneur. Sincerely speaking, it's a community of women who are there to support you, to encourage you, and to criticize you in a positive manner. They look into your business, tell you where you're going wrong, what you're also doing well. And that's something that every woman that is doing well in business should crave for. When I joined USBS Elite, that was this year, and I met her on Facebook. She was always supporting me, even though I was not a member of the group. She reached out to me asking me if I needed help in my business. And as usual in a person, she went all the mile to support me, as in all the mile. Being in this group has really, really been profitable for me. I'm grateful I joined, and I've connected a lot of amazing women doing so well who would inspire with their story, their journey, and their successes. I want to implore every woman out there to join this group. This is a group to be if you are going somewhere in life. And again, of course, with your brand. So please, I encourage you to become a part of us, grow, learn, and achieve greatness. I love you. Bye-bye.
In 2015, when I set out to help teachers, I knew I needed to move from passion to making money. And that's how my path and that of Seun Akinoto crossed. Joining the On Point Small Business Success Network, which we call OSBS, has been amazing because it's a safe space for women. Now, joining the Elite Tribe is like the icing on the cake because the business mentoring sessions, the mastermind sessions, even the prayers and the continuous support from the Elite members have helped me to focus and gain clarity. For somebody like me who's a visionary, The push I get from the Elite members have helped me become someone who also implements my ideas. I would recommend that you join the OSBS Elite Network because Seun Akinlotan is a business coach that knows what she's doing. Thank you.
Welcome back. Welcome back. My name is Seun Akinlotan. If you are just joining us, and this is the Power Woman series. With me today is Dr. Lizzy Adedokun. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist. Now, before we took the break, Dr. Lizzy was sharing about her childhood, her PhD program, but I'm about to ask her a very important question, and I hope that you will stay tuned and also share this video so that other people can join us. Dr. Lizzy.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi, welcome back. So I want to know about a major turning point in your life. I know that you are 30 years old and you've gone through a series of changes in your lifetime. You went from being a child to a teenager to being a grad student to being married, having kids, all in 30 years. Wow, that's superstar something. Anyway, can you describe a turning point in your life and what did that experience teach you?
Awesome. I love this question. I'm really excited to answer this question. So I believe the last 6 years of my PhD program was very life-changing for me. I felt like it was just a journey of self-discovery. A lot of things that I learned about myself was just really profound. And I remember entering the program, with some loss, but I would say, ending the program with gain, right? I was able to, get married and have kids and get fully licensed and own a home. But a significant turning point, I would have to say, really started in 2016 when I was completed with classes. And I really wanted to move back home just because I was really homesick. And my husband and I were long distance at the time. And having that difficult conversation with my chair, my supervisor over my research about moving back home. And I just felt really discouraged just because she was just saying that I would get really distracted and basically never finish. And I feel like as a chair, you want to support your students and be there for them and support them in any way. But I just felt like nothing in Philly was really holding me there. I mean, I had friends, but I didn't really have family. And of course, my husband wasn't there. And I just kept thinking about the beginning of my program when I was told that like you couldn't have babies and you couldn't basically have a life. Your whole life is school. And I just really struggled with that just because, I believe it's okay to have balance. I believe it's okay to go get a degree and, start a family. And I didn't want my whole life to just be wrapped up in school, especially because I never took a break. I went from bachelor's to master's to PhD. Like I didn't take any break. I was even taking summer classes at one point. And so I knew, eventually I would like to settle down. But my chair just really wasn't on board and it took a lot of convincing. And eventually she was just like, okay, you're just going to have to prove and be on top of it. And again, just feeling like, I don't want to let her down. So I'm just dealing with that pressure. But soon after that, I got married and got pregnant. And of course I was excited, but I was extremely nervous to tell my chair. I was so scared to tell her because, just kind of giving into that whole myth that you can't have babies, you can't get married, you can't work. But, I eventually had to tell her because I was on my way to a conference with a lot of my school faculty who were going to be there. And so I didn't want her to find out through my school faculty. So I did end up telling her, and to my surprise, she was actually very supportive, actually very excited for me. And she also told me that honestly, she hates that myth that women can't go on and get a PhD and have babies too. So I was really relieved, but it really wasn't easy. Like I said earlier, sometimes I would literally have my son on me while I'm like typing my paper or responding to emails. Just having to juggle that was really hard. And also just dealing with the pressure of the outside of people saying, when are you going to finish? Haven't you been in school forever? And just, not really knowing the end point. Because there were many times during my 6-year journey that I was like thinking, I'm just not going to finish. I'm not going to finish. I don't know when I'm going to finish. And I dealt with some really hard, challenging parts of my dissertation too, my research. Like there were points where I was just really stuck. And because I moved away, I wasn't living in Philly. I didn't have, that safety net where I could just go, to my chair or go to, a classroom. So I really did feel isolated at some point. But as I said earlier, my village, I don't know what I would do, without my husband, without the support of my parents, my close friends who have PhDs, who just continue to push me on. But when I finished, I remember having a conversation with my chair, and she got a little emotional and was just telling me that she was really proud of me and just saw me grow up from 2014 to now with children and being able to, dismiss that myth that women can't, all they have to focus on is school. No, like you can have a balance, and as long as you're structured and organized, you can get it done. And one thing I applaud my parents for is just, when we were growing up, my parents really encouraged us to memorize Bible verses. And my relationship with God really just significantly changed throughout the 6 years that I was in school. I became so much more closer to him and memorizing scripture just to get me through. So that really was what got me through, is my relationship with God, the support from my village, my husband, and for my kids too. I wanted to do this for them, and knowing that, if mommy can do it, they can do it as well. So
Wow.
I'm glad I was able to overcome that, because I did not think I would finish, but 6 years later, I'm here, and I'm really happy.
Wow.
Very happy. Yeah.
I touched on some key points, and I'm going to do a quick recap because I wanted to drive home the point. You had mentioned that you went to your chair and you requested to go back home. For those of you that are not in the US, the chair is basically like HOD, like head of department for a program or a doctorate program, and the person happened to be a woman, right? So she knew that she wanted to go back home, but she didn't withdraw from school. She still made sure that she was able to negotiate with her and convince her that she can run things from a distance, right? So sometimes it might not be the norm. You just have to take that step and negotiate based on your circumstances. And she also said that don't use your kids as an excuse. So she said her son would sometimes jump on her, and then she's using one hand to hold the baby, using the other fingers to type, to respond to messages. So women, don't leave your dreams just for your children. I know a lot of women say, oh, whatever I can't achieve, my children will achieve. Yes, we all pray that our children do better than us.
Mm-hmm.
We pray that they will be greater than us, but nothing stops us from being achievers ourselves. Mm-hmm. I like when you said you're doing this for your children. You want your children to see you and be proud of you and say, if mommy can do it, then I can do it as well. So I think that is amazing. And I think everyone should learn from that. Now, if you have any questions for Dr. Lizzy, maybe you're trying to apply for your PhD or you're trying to learn more about the requirements, please drop your questions in the comment box. I'll be reading your questions. Dr. Lizzy, let's talk about your career as a licensed marriage and family therapist. Marriage is the first institution that God created, but there has been a lot of controversies about what marriage means. These days, you can't even tell what's going on. And I know that your work has exposed you to different types of situations in marriages. So what would you say is the leading cause of breakdown in marriages in the 21st century?
Yes, I'm going to steer away from the, the typical answer is, oh, communication or mistrust. Okay. I think, what I have really noticed just with my past work with working with couples is that, couples really just stop liking each other. It's one thing to love one another, but do you really like that person? No, seriously.
I'm like, stop liking it.
Do you like being around that person? Do you like their behavior? Do you like them as a person? And I
Okay.
think in the beginning, of course, it's all honeymoon and roses and all happy, but marriage does get hard, and there
Yeah.
are times where you feel like you don't like your spouse. So I
Wow.
think really focusing on, okay, what triggered that honeymoon moment, that aha moment that this person is for me. I think people kind of forget that. And one thing that I've noticed too is working with couples in the past, I don't currently work with couples now, is that when I ask how they met or how they fell in love with one another, the way they even talk about it really tells me a lot. If they're very happy about talking about it, that gives me the message that they're doing well, they're happy. But if they're having a lot of contempt, or they don't really care to talk about how they met or how they fell in love, that says a lot too. So marriage is a journey, and like I said, there will be times you feel like, oh, I love you, but I just don't like you right now. But really just focusing on what made you love this person, what made you fall in love with this person. I think that kind of plays a role in some of the breakdowns of marriages today.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you have a client in front of you that tells you that I don't like my spouse anymore. What advice would you give to the person?
What advice would I give to someone who said they don't
Two
like
questions. What advice would you give to someone that tells you I don't like my spouse anymore? And what would you recommend so that couples will keep up the love or the likeness? How do people keep it up? Because this is a forever journey. Like
Yeah.
when you're married, till death do you part, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how do you keep that flame burning? How do you spice up your relationship? Give us some relationship tips.
Sure. Of course. So I think it's really important to be creative in, how you connect with your spouse. Be really creative. You don't even have to spend money. You don't have to go out on date nights every week. You can do things right at home. I'm fortunate enough to have, kids in school part-time. So when the kids are in school, both my husband and I are working from home. So there's times I'll join him right here in the office and work with him, or we'll take our breaks together at the same time and have lunch together. Just finding little simple ways to connect on, on that kind of level. It doesn't have to be something super, big, but even just sitting on the couch together, watching TV, those are little ways you can, connect with your spouse. And really, if someone is saying, I don't like, my spouse anymore, really understanding like how that breakdown came to be, what was happening, in that situation or in that experience that you don't, like your spouse anymore. But I really find it important to, find different ways to connect and be very creative. I think those are some pretty practical tips, at least what works for my marriage, that we're just very creative. Even when the kids are sleeping, there's times we'll stay up and watch Netflix. I mean, simple things like that. It really helps.
It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be grand. It could be right there in your house. You could spice things up and be creative. Yes, that is amazing. Thanks for sharing that. Now, I wanted to ask you before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you if there's anyone in the audience that is trying to go for their advanced degrees, whether it's a master's program, whether it's a professional degree in their line of career, whether it's even a doctorate. Do you have tips for such people? Because one thing that stops a lot of people is the fear of rejection. They're just scared that, oh, if I apply, I may not get approved. I might not get the admission. Oh, I'm a Black woman. There are limited opportunities for me. What tips would you share with people that are stopping themselves even before they get started?
Definitely. I faced rejection as well. I think it's important to first make a list of schools that really fit best to, what your passion is. And write those schools down and research those schools. Google, read their website, read their mission statement. I think that's the first step. But also, understanding that, rejection can actually be a form of protection. I was rejected from a school that, later down the line, I learned that, was not even a program anymore. So God forbid, I probably wouldn't have had a degree if I went to that school. So really just going in with that self-awareness that, rejection, it hurts. I understand it stings, but it is, it's a part of life, and it's you look at it in a way that protection could really help overcome that fear. But just not limiting yourself, right? Like applying to several schools, reading their mission statements, and also understanding, especially if you want to go on to get a higher degree, like a master's or a PhD, remembering your why. Why do you want to get a PhD? Why do you want to get a master's? Remembering that, because there will be times that you want to quit and you just don't want to do it anymore because it's tiring and it's overwhelming, it's stressful. But remembering why you're doing this, and that would always ignite your passion and just really get you through. But that's something that definitely helps for me. It's just remembering why I'm doing this. So.
Yes, remember why is important. I remember that a lot of people, when they want to apply to schools, I think you touched on something that is really important, and I just wanted to reinforce that. When you're applying to a school, yes, you remember your why, but you also have to remember the why of the school. Each school has their vision and mission statement. And I know that a lot of schools, for their doctorate program, they want students that would go into research after their doctorate degree, because then it brings glory to the school when they say a researcher that graduated from Drexel University has discovered the cure to coronavirus, something like that. They love the headlines. So they want students that once you get into the school, you're going to bring some type of glory to that school. So now when you're crafting your mission statement, you need to craft your mission statement based on the mission and the vision that the school has. And then you kind of blend that with your own why so that your statement of purpose can stand out. Because when you have the admission committee or the board or whoever is reviewing your application, you want your application to touch on key points. And the same thing goes for resumes or your application to a job place. If you're applying for a job, you want to make sure that your resume is touching on the key points in the job description. So paying attention to details can help you have an edge over an entire pool. And this is something that I am passionate about, because I believe that as a Black woman, I have no limitations. I can go to any school that I want to go to, and I can achieve anything that I truly want to achieve. And Dr. Lizzy, I want to say this. I love when you said that rejection is a form of protection. I've never heard that. And I'm running away with that, because sometimes, I've heard rejection is a blessing, but rejection is a form of protection. That helps me feel better, because I have gone through a lot of rejections in my lifetime. So if I see that, okay, yes, I'm rejected from this opportunity, but maybe God is protecting me from something. Right. And, you said the school that you really wanted, the program closed down, what would you have done? So rejection is a form of protection. I really love that. I love that. Thank you, Pastor Vera. Pastor Vera says that make a list of the school that you have passion with and read everything on their website. Yes, absolutely. You want to read. It's important. The success is in the details. You have to read the details. Open up the book, check the website before you put in your application. You don't want to be going north when you're supposed to be going south. So sometimes it's not that we are being rejected. It's just that a lot of us don't do our due diligence.
Exactly.
All right. So to the next question, we're almost done. Thank you, everyone, for sticking by. And if you're just joining in, my name is Seun Akinloton. I am the host of the Power Woman series, and with me today is Dr. Lizzy Adedokun. I don't know why I said your full name, but that's fine. Dr. Lizzy, if you had a magic wand right now, and you are able to turn back the hands of time, you were able to go back to 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when you were a teenager, what advice would you give yourself?
Ooh, good question. I would just say to be patient and trust the process. And the reason I say this is because, as an oldest child, I feel like I always had to just get everything done and just be on to the next thing, just keep moving, keep being busy. And I want to share, I remember when my husband and I reconnected, I remember telling him my long-term plan about finishing my PhD in 4 years, getting married by 30, having kids after that. And just, I would tell my younger self, like, it's okay if your plans don't go, exactly as you wanted, because clearly that did not happen for me. And so I would just say to be patient and trust the process and trust that everything that you go through in your life will definitely lead you to where you're supposed to be. And so that's what I would say, because I found myself rushing a lot and trying to rush through life and do everything by 30. And it's okay if you don't. It doesn't mean you're not accomplished. It doesn't mean you're not smart. So I would tell my younger self, be patient, trust the process, embrace, the things that you go through, even the painful things, because that's what really prunes you and makes you better. And that's definitely something I would say to my younger self.
Wow. Patient. I have to repeat it times. And I love how you said, yes, you have a deadline. Yes, you have a goal. You have a certain age. I used to say by 40, I should have this, and this. But one thing that I heard recently that I really love, I heard it from Pastor Craig Goshel. He said, have the courage to undo a promise. So if the promise is giving you headache, you've tried your best, right? But it's not just happening. Have that courage to undo a promise. A lot of us also stay in path whereby things are just not working, but
Right.
because we've promised people, we say people are looking up to us, and we just want to achieve that, jeopardizing our own peace, our
Exactly.
own sanity. So
Yeah.
it's good to set goals by certain age, but if you're not able to meet up, it's fine, right? Be
Right.
patient,
Right.
enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. Don't choke up yourself. That
Right.
is amazing. And thank you for sharing that. So I'm going to read a comment from Pastor Vera, and she says, this is so impactful and powerful. Love you both, and thank you so much for all that you do. Sheon Akinloton, you are a blessing to the world. Thank you so much, Pastor Vera. I really do appreciate you. Your support means a lot. And someone said, Miss Chosen by Grace says, my sister is all types of black magic. Yes.
That's a close friend of mine.
Yeah, and she said she's so proud of you. She's so proud of you.
Yeah.
Awesome. So now I've asked you if you could turn back the hands of time. Now let's fast forward the hands of time. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? And how do you want people to support you?
Yes. Well, I want to start with how I want people to support me is just to continue to pray, pray for me, encourage. I'm someone who loves to encourage people, so I love to receive that back. In 5 years, I really see myself owning my own practice. I applaud my husband for encouraging me and pushing me and seeing the best in me, because I used to be really nervous about venturing out on my own. So I hope to just start my own practice and really give back to the Black community, the African community, and just, heal, our people, especially because I'm in Minnesota and there's less than 2% of licensed Black therapists here. And so I just hope to impact the Black community here. But again, just continue to pray for me, because it's, that's a big dream. And so big dreams require big prayers and encouragement. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Yes, people are already sending their prayers to you, and definitely I will keep you in my prayers. You've been amazing. Before you go, I just have one more question.
Yeah.
And What else would you like to say? What else would you like to say? It's
Just thank you. I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to just sit back and really reflect on the last 6 years of my life. I believe the last 6 years of my life were really life changing. And it's funny, I keep thinking about it because I said I always wanted to finish in 4 years, and the fact that I finished in 6 years was just God's divine purpose for me. Because if I finished in 4 years, I probably would not have been mature enough to handle a PhD at 28. And so I'm just really grateful you gave me the opportunity to sit with myself and really reflect on the last 6 years and really just thanking God, right? Like I went through a lot within those last 6 years, had two small kids and suffered some loss, had some gain. And I'm just thankful because a lot of people would have quit and just said, maybe this is not for me, but I'm grateful to know that I was able to overcome some hurdles and be where I am today. So thanks for that opportunity. I probably wouldn't have sat down and reflected on that. So thank you.
cool. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for honoring my invitation. I really do appreciate the fact that you're here today, and thank you for all the insights. Thank you for everything you've shared. I wish you all the best, and I promise to always keep you in my prayers. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today at the Power Woman series. This is a series that I'm running currently. Feel free to join me every Saturday, same time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you live in Nigeria, it's going to be 8 p.m. Nigerian time. And until next time, be exceptional, be intentional, and be on point. Bye-bye.